Hello everybody and welcome back to Build and Battle MTG. Today I have a video on a black-white life loss, life gain deck tech. This deck is super fun to play with, so make sure you guys stick around. And please consider subscribing because it'd help the channel out a lot. And yeah, let's get on with it. But before we get the deck tech started, if anybody would like to sponsor the channel some packs to open up, it would be our first pack opening. And yeah, I have my email down in the description below, so shoot me an email. We'll talk about it, and yeah, so read the description. Alright, starting off with the creatures. The first creature we have in this deck is Loyal Sentry. It is 1 white to cast, and it's a 1/1, and it has an ability that says, when Loyal Sentry blocks a creature, destroy that creature and Loyal Sentry. So, this is good, and I know that some of you are thinking, you could just run a 1/1 Death Touch instead of this, but this is better than Death Touch, and I'll tell you why. Say if there's like a 5/5 trample dude attacking you and you block with this, when this blocks, it destroys the creature and Loyal Sentry, so no access trample damage will come through. So that is why we have Loyal Sentry in the deck, and we have 3 copies of it. Also, it's a 1/1, and that will come in to factor later, and I'll tell you why. Alright, the next card we have is Perilous Mirror. It's a 2-drop 1/1, and when Perilous Mirror dies, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. This is going to be, let me get that in the shot. This is going to be huge in this deck, because we want to have one of our goals in this deck is to have our opponent just lose life directly, so when this dies, we're going to deal 2 damage to them. And yeah, so we are running 4 copies of Perilous Mirror, and it's also a 1/1, which will come in factor later in the deck. The next card we have in here is Cruel Celebrant. It is a 1/2, and it says, whenever a Cruel Celebrant or another creature or planeswalker you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is going to be really good for us in this deck because we want our opponents to lose as much life as we can get them to lose. Well, obviously, but that's one of the main goals in this deck, so Cruel Celebrant's going to help us a lot with this. And it pairs so well with all these 1/1s because, like, if Perilous Mirror dies, we can deal 2 damage to our opponent, and then we gain 1 and deal 1 more damage to our opponent. That's 3 damage to them just for one of our creatures dying. And we have 3 copies of Cruel Celebrant in here. The next card on the list is Pestilent Spirit. It is a 3-drop 3/2 Menace Death Touch. Instant and sorcery spells you control have Death Touch. So that means any amount of damage they do to a creature is enough to destroy it. That's really good on this card, but that's not really what we're looking for. What is good on it for this deck is the Menace and the Death Touch. So when you play a Pestilent Spirit, you're going to want to swing in every combat you can with this because they're most likely not going to block it unless they're running like a chump deck, like tokens or something, because it's Menace and Death Touch, so they'd have to block it with 2 creatures, and both of those creatures would die. So this is just going to get in for combat damage, and we want our opponent's life total to get as low as we can get it in the early game. So that is why we have Pestilent Spirit in this deck, and we have 4 copies of it. Now the next card in here is Massacre Girl, and this is where all the 1/1s in this deck come into play. We have 7 1/1s in the deck, so you're definitely going to be able to combine Massacre Girl with those. Massacre Girl is a 5-drop 4/4 Menace, and it says, when Massacre Girl enters the battlefield, each other creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Then, whenever a creature dies this turn, each creature gets another -1/-1 counter until end of turn, except for Massacre Girl. So, what this means is, if there's a 1/1 on the battlefield, when this enters, that's gonna die. And then, when a creature dies, you're gonna put another -1/-1 counter on everything. This is just gonna go like a downhill snowball. It's gonna cause an avalanche, and it really helps you out in this deck. When you're in a pinch, you know, just play Massacre Girl, and especially if you have a Cruel Celebrant on the battlefield, when your creatures die, you gain 1 life and each opponent loses 1 life. So that's huge, and this is why we have Massacre Girl in the deck. We have 3 copies of her. Now, the next card we have in this deck, since this is a life gain deck, as well as our opponent's losing life, is Felidar Sovereign, or Sovereign. I don't know how to say his name. It is a 6-drop, 4/6 Vigilance lifelink, and it says, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game. Now, this is actually not that hard to reach if you're playing in a 3-player game, 4-player game. 40 life is not that hard to reach. Honestly, in this deck, you will get 40 life on like turn 8, even with people dealing damage to you. If not people dealing damage to you, then probably like turn 6 when you play this. Also, it has lifelink, so it can gain you life itself from attacking, and then it has vigilance, so when you attack with it, you gain 4 life, then it's up to block again, and if you block with it, you gain 4 more life. Definitely solid card in this deck, and we are running 2 copies of it. Now, the next creature we have in this deck is Adkar Valkyrie. Adkar Valkyrie is a 6-drop, 5/4, or 4/5, my apologies. Flying Vigilance, and you can tap it. When target creature other than Adkar Valkyrie is put into the graveyard this turn, return that creature to play under your control. Now, this card is huge with Perlicious Mirror. When Perlicious Mirror dies, you're dealing 2 damage to your opponent. Then you tap this, return it to the battlefield, boom, you can do it again next turn. Great card. We have 2 copies of it in this deck. And the last creature we have in this deck is Defiant Bloodlord. This comes into really good synergy later in the deck, and I'll show you guys why, but it is a 7-drop, 4/5 flying, and it says whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. Now, since this is a life gain deck and a life loss deck, this helps us out in both ways. Whenever we gain life, it's going to deal that much damage to one of our opponents. That is huge. And this causes an insta-kill paired with another card in our deck, and I'll show you guys later. But that is it for the creatures. Okay, next up on the list, we have artifacts. We are running 1 artifact, but 4 copies of it, and that is Chalice of Life. It is a 3-drop, and you can tap it, and it says you gain 1 life. Then if you have at least 10 or more life than your starting life total, transform Chalice of Life. Now it transforms into Chalice of Death, which says you can tap it and target player loses 5 life. That is such a big amount of life in this deck that is going to get us the win a lot of times, and we have 4 copies of that in the deck, so you're definitely going to be seeing them throughout the game. Now, moving on to the enchantments, we are running 4 of them. The first one is Lich's Mastery. Now, this card is very tricky. It's a 6-drop legendary enchantment, and it says hexproof. You can't lose the game. Whenever you gain life, draw that many cards. Whenever you lose life, for each 1 life you lost, exile a permanent you control or a card from your hand or graveyard. When Lich's Mastery leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. So, Lich's Mastery, you definitely want to play if you're about to lose the game, because then it says you can't lose the game. But, when it leaves the battlefield, you lose the game. So, whenever somebody deals damage to you, you have to exile that many cards from either the battlefield, hand, graveyard, or battlefield, hand, or graveyard. So if this is the last thing you have to exile, then you lose the game. But it's definitely good in a pinch, and also it'll draw you so many cards that most of the time you don't even have to worry about it leaving the battlefield. And we are running 2 copies of those in the deck. Only 2. Make sure you don't go above that. And the next enchantment is Ordeal of Heliod. Now this is going to gain us a bunch of life. It's a 2-drop enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then if it has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, sacrifice Ordeal of Heliod. When you sacrifice Ordeal of Heliod, you gain 10 life. Now that's essentially 3 +1/+1s and 10 life for 2 mana, which is really good in this deck. But you're gonna want to attach this to cards like Felidar, Servogen, or whatever it is, or Pestilent Spirit, because Pestilent Spirit, you're gonna get a lot of use off this, and that's why we have it in the deck. And that is it for our enchantments. And the last in the deck, we have sorceries, and we only have 3 sorceries in here, and it's Blood Tribute. It's a 6-drop, and it has a kicker cost. Tap an untapped vampire you control. And then it says, target opponent loses half his or her life total, rounded up. If blood total was kicked, you gain life equal to the life lost this way. So let me show you the insta-kill in this deck. Hold on. Let me find Defiant Bloodlord. Okay. So, what you're going to do. Let me zoom in here. You're going to have Defiant Bloodlord on the battlefield. Okay? You play Blood Tribute. As an additional cost for the kicker, you're going to tap Defiant Bloodlord because it is a vampire. Then Blood Tribute says, target opponent loses half his or her life total rounded up. If Blood Tribute was kicked, which it was because you tapped Defiant Bloodlord, you gain life equal to the life lost this way. Now, if you read Defiant Bloodlord, it says, whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So, if the opponent you play Blood Tribute on is, say, 30 life, they lose 15, you gain 15, and then you can deal 15 more damage back to them with Defiant Bloodlord. That's an insta-kill. This is why we have these 2 cards in the deck, and I have pulled this insta-kill off so many games. It is insane. So, yeah, and that is it for the deck. Oops, that's not it for the deck. We have, I forgot to cover lands. We have, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 swamps, 12 plains. And then in this deck, I just have a dual gate. You can put any dual land or just run 23 or 13 and 12 of the lands, but that's the lands. So moving on to the deck overview. This deck is, it's kind of complicated to play, but if you play it right, you will win. So, what you're gonna want to do is, we have one alternate win condition, which is Felidar Servogen. Gain 40 or more life, then you win the game. We have one more alternate win condition, which is Lich's Mastery, which means you can't lose the game, so basically you just rebuild your board while that is out, while drawing a bunch of cards. So there's 2 alternate ways to win, but the 2 main ways we are going to win is, the second main way to win is by just gaining a ton of life, so then our opponent's not going to be able to take us out because we end up have like 40 or more life, and then we just keep swinging in and returning creatures with Adkar Valkyrie. Or the main way to win is just by making our opponents lose so much life that they're just down to 0. So we can do this by swinging in with Pestilent Spirit, Perlicious Mirrodine, or just Chalice of Life and Death, cards like that, Blood Tribute, and Defiant Bloodlord. That's another alternate win condition, Defiant Bloodlord and Blood Tribute. So yeah, there are so many ways to win with this deck, and it is a bit complex, but if you know how to do it, it's really easy to pull off. So you just got to get the hang of it. And I didn't mention earlier, but this deck is $20 on TCG Player. And that is the deck. That is it for this deck tech. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you would like to see any other kinds of videos, more deck techs or anything, just leave it down in the comments below, and I will try my best to get that done. And if anybody would like to sponsor the channel, some packs again, my email's in the description, so shoot me an email and we'll talk about it. And thank you guys for watching. Please consider subscribing, and help the channel out so much, and please drop a like. Hope you guys enjoyed. Goodbye.